Daniel Ricciardo's future remains highly uncertain as his last season's painful McLaren struggles carried over into 2022. Despite scoring McLaren's first win since 2012, Daniel has been far from on pace while wearing the McLaren colors, as the Papaya car proved a tricky beast to tame for the Aussie. After leaving Red Bull in 2018, Ricciardo has been on the move, with the 32-year-old eventually signing for McLaren from 2021 onwards, being paired with the young and bright Lando Norris. Given Norris's track record of getting beaten by Carlos Sainz in both his years in Formula One and Ricciardo being regarded as one of the best in the business at the time, expectations for Daniel to completely wipe the floor with his younger British counterpart were sky high. But nothing could be further from the truth. Lando Norris was on an absolute roll last year, convincingly beating Ricciardo over the season and clearly establishing himself as the superior driver between the pairing. Many expected Ricciardo's fortunes to finally turn around with the introduction of the brand new 2022 car philosophy, but his slump continues as he only managed a single points finish in Australia. Meanwhile, Norris already stood on the podium in Imola and scored points in all but 2 races this season. This now sparked a brand new debate about McLaren parting ways with the Australian prematurely, as rumors of an early sacking started to circulate around the paddock, something we'll be covering in depth in today's video. McLaren CEO, Zak Brown, quickly poured gas on the fire, confessing how he truly feels about his second driver, as he bluntly stated Ricciardo is far from meeting the team's expectations, and later even spoke about potential replacements, dropping 3 potential candidates to step up to that second hot seat. Short of Monza and a few races, the partnership has not met his or our expectations, Brown suggested, as he went on to compare Ricciardo with Norris. Lando definitely has an edge. We obviously would like to see Daniel much closer to Lando and have a good inter-team battle, he concluded. But Brown's criticism caused a great deal of uproar amid Formula One fans who remained to stand firmly behind the struggling Aussie. And Daniel himself didn't hold back as he joined in on the chat, addressing his future and sending a rather heated message to everyone suggesting McLaren are set to sack him as early as this season. The more people ask me about retirement, I'm like, F that, I want to stay longer, he stated in typical Danny Rick fashion before talking about his future in the sport altogether. I think I've still got the desire in me for a good handful of years, results aside. I still think there's a good handful of years left in me competitively, but if I said 5 more years and in my 5th year I start winning a bunch of races and I'm fighting for a world championship, I'm definitely not going to retire at the end of that 5th year, he added. Most people recognize Daniel's raw talent and pace. At the end of the day, he's the man who managed to outperform Sebastian Vettel in equal machinery in 2014, just 1 year after his 4 consecutive championships. But he himself is fully aware of the need to keep on performing in order to be an attractive prospect for McLaren going forward, or potentially even other teams. Yes, I've done F1 enough now that people know that I'm a capable driver, etc. But people also forget there's no guarantee that in 2 years' time, everyone's going to be like, "We want to sign you," he stated when asked about the other team's desires to poach him away from McLaren. There's not 10 contracts under your door, so it's in my hands as well, and not only my desire, but of course my competitiveness, added Daniel, before making a very bold statement about his F1 future. Even when being forced to defend himself amid rising retirement talks, Ricciardo insists he still has it in him to challenge for a world title, suggesting that his unfortunes have more to do with his McLaren race car rather than himself personally. The biggest thing now is a world title, for sure. 1 win is awesome, but it's not enough. So there's unfinished business in terms of, I want to get more, but there's unfinished business in the sport still too, he said, referring to his standout victory in Monza last year. I think, going back to the retirement talk, whilst I still believe I can have what it takes to be a world champion, then I'm going to stay in the sport because I'm not content with 8 wins. I'm proud, but I'm not content, Daniel added, before being questioned whether McLaren is the right outfit for him to fulfill his championship hopes. There's no team or teams on my wish list. He shut down the suggestions of leaving his current squad. I'm aware I've moved around a bit the last few years, so stability within a team sounds most desirable for me. Also, McLaren's got things coming, such as the wind tunnel and new simulator, which I know will benefit the team. So, despite the McLaren being a tricky beast to tame for the Aussie, it seems he accepted McLaren is his long-term home within the paddock, suggesting the only viable option is to tweak the car closer to his personal driving style, as it's currently built all around Lando. Given Zak Brown's previous criticism, he was surprisingly in agreement with his second driver, insisting the issue lies deep inside the McLaren package rather than Daniel's raw ability. Daniel is just not comfortable yet with the new car. "We are trying everything we can," he revealed, before going on to praise Norris. "I think it also points to how good Lando is." When you look at the points difference between Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz at Ferrari, between Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez at Red Bull, there are gaps between teammates. "I think Lando is one of the best drivers in the world at the moment, and I think it is also kind of a compliment to how good Lando is when you see the gap that exists," Brown added, before proposing 3 potential candidates to take the step up if Ricciardo fails to turn his fortunes around. McLaren is far from short of talent up their sleeves, with their driver pool being packed to the brim with promising prospects, something Brown is very aware of, as he first spoke about when the time to start contract negotiations with Ricciardo will come, before name-dropping 3 possible replacements. "Probably later this year," Zak answered when quizzed about having talks with Ricciardo regarding their future before mentioning his viable successors. "We have another year together, but we do like to think long out, hence doing some testing with Pato. We're going to do some testing with Colton. We've got Ugo in Formula 4, who put it on pole at his first race," he said, referring to the IndyCar superstars of Colton Herta and Pato O'Ward, with a surprise inclusion of the team's 15-year-old junior, Ugo Ugochukwu, who was quickly dubbed McLaren's new Hamilton after dominating go-karts for countless seasons and beating everyone in his first-ever open-wheel car race earlier this season. So, with Daniel visibly underperforming and Brown suggesting replacing Ricciardo won't prove to be a difficult deed, many around the paddock started believing that all signs are pointing to an early Ricciardo dismissal. Daniel's McLaren contract runs till the end of 2023, ensuring his place in the team for about 40 more races at the very least. But Formula 1 contracts are notoriously known for their flexibility and hidden exit clauses, which allow for both the team and the individual driver to cut their ties prematurely if certain performance indicators fail to be met. For instance, Red Bull's Max Verstappen, who is contracted to the team until 2028, is rumored to have the option to leave for a competitor if he finishes lower than 4th in the championship. But Red Bull could also cut their ties short if he underperforms compared to Perez, for instance, scoring only 60% of the points of his teammate. And with Ricciardo having a mere 11 points to his name in 2022, compared to Norris racking up 48 in the same time frame, many started suggesting that McLaren will soon take advantage of the alleged contract clause and drop Daniel prior to 2023. But a recent report by The Race suggests that it is in fact only Ricciardo who has the option to exit early, with McLaren firmly contracted to the Aussie for the full 3 years they initially agreed on all the way back in 2020. At the time, Ricciardo was undoubtedly outperforming his Renault car, dragging the 5th fastest car toward 2 podium finishes, so McLaren felt confident they were signing a complete gem, not thinking twice about embedding an exit clause into his 3-year deal. Something which now undeniably came back to bite them, as the team would dearly wish to have the option to cut their Ricciardo ties early if he doesn't turn his fortunes around in a rapid manner. But we want to know what you guys think. Do you think McLaren will find a way to drop Daniel prior to 2023? Can you see him finally getting to grips with the McLaren? And who would you put in Daniel's seat if you were the team principal? Let us know in the comments down below. We've let YouTube decide which video of ours you would enjoy watching next the most based on your own unique watching habits and preferences. Let's see if they are right.